Bingo. A bingo. Yeah, I bet you didn't think the video would start with that. But let me explain. In the world of horse racing, there is something called a Triple Crown, where you win 3 major races. I believe the Preakness, Baltimore Stakes. Is it Preakness, Baltimore, and Preakness, Churchill Downs, and Kentucky Derby? I believe that's what those 3 are. But anyway, my point is there are 3 specific races that you need to win in order to get this coveted title. In the world of professional wrestling, there is such a thing as a Grand Slam champion, which requires 4 specific tiers of belts. You need the primary belt, the secondary belt, a tertiary belt, and then the tag team titles. Or in the case of AEW, you need the two major prestige belts, the AEW World Title and the TNT belt, and then the two tag team titles, the 2-man tag team, and then the trios. What's 5? I thought, well, why not a continental or whatever you want to call it, but that's too complicated. And well, whenever I think of 5, I usually think of 5 in a row, bingo. Well, why not a bingo? Why not call it a bingo? Why not call winning 5 distinct titles, 5 distinct tiers of titles, a bingo? I think that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to call it. And Seattle is on the verge of doing something so remarkable that it makes you want to yell bingo. If they do what they need to do this season, they will be the first MLS team to get a bingo. Now, what qualifies exactly as a bingo? Well, it requires you to get the best titles amongst these five tiers. So you need to get the primary titles that are available, both of them. So the 2 primary titles are the Supporter Shield, which is a regular season champions, and the MLS Cup, which is a postseason tournament champion. You need both of those because those are both seen as equal in stature and both of equal of importance. Now, the second group that you need in that first tier is a continental championship. It could be CONCACAF, Interamericana, or Superliga. It could be anything from those likes. And Seattle has already accomplished that in 2022 when they won the CONCACAF Champions League, or CONCACAF Champions Cup. One of the few American teams to actually do it, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. The third group is your secondary titles, basically what is considered the domestic cup championship. So this could be either, depending on where you are based out of, whether in the United States or Canada, it's either the US Open Cup or the Canadian Championship. Well, Seattle has won the US Open Cup, so they've got already 3 of the major 5. Now, what about the 4th tier? Now, what about the 4th group? The 4th group is consisted of tertiary belts or tertiary titles. Sorry, I'm still using the wrestling. I'm still thinking of the wrestling the Grand Slam wrestling concept. And in the tertiary group, there are 3 titles, 3 championships. Once again, I keep screwing this up. The 3 groups, or the three championships, and there's 2 different groups. So there's one for the interleague, or sort of like what you would call like an interleague championship. And that would fit in the category with the Leagues Cup, which is between MLS and Liga MX. And then the Campeones Cup, which is between the winner of the MLS Cup and the winner of the Campeones, I believe that's what the name is. It's basically the winner of the MLS versus the winner of Liga MX in a Super Cup situation. Well, Seattle has won the Leagues Cup. They beat Messi last year. So they got 4 of the 5. Well, what's the 5th one? You probably are thinking, they could win the Champions Cup. Does that count? No, because the Leagues Cup and the Champions Cup are both seen as interleague tournaments or championships. They're basically in the same group. You just need to win one. And that gets you that 4th group. So what is the 5th? Well, it is probably the most unique trophy that MLS gives out unofficially, somewhat officially, sort of in the pseudo realm between official and unofficial, because one, the fans created it, just like the Supporter Shield, and then MLS recognizes it, and you'll hear commentators talk about it, but I don't think there isn't much of a celebration or anything, and the teams don't actually hold to the trophy. It's usually passed around by the fans. That trophy, this coveted 5th trophy that they need, is the Anthony Precourt Memorial Wooden Spoon. Now, for those that aren't familiar, what exactly is a wooden spoon trophy? Well, it is awarded to the team who performs the worst in the league. It was originally given out as part of I believe at the University of Cambridge. It was given out to people in the math ward, I believe, whoever was given the lowest scores, who was given the lowest grades or something, given the lowest score in the math in their exams or something. I can't remember. I tried looking it up. I got a little confused by it, but they would give out a wooden spoon, sometimes literally the size of the person itself. And these things would be 5-6 feet. These things would be huge, as part of a joke by the student body. The student body, the professors would tip the hat for whoever had the highest overall test score, which would be seen as the senior wrangler. That's at least the title for that. And then the wooden spoon was basically given out to the person with the worst of the worst test scores, basically. And this award has been spread throughout all different types of sports. It was kind of given in rowing, I think, a little bit. Cambridge kind of did give it out in rowing competitions. It was also made mention of in the especially in Australia, Australian footy, soccer, rugby. They kind of make mention of it as well. I don't think there's an official trophy that they give out, but they do make mention of, here in the US, we have what's called tank bowls, where two awful teams are playing against each other. Well, they have something called spoon bowls, because they're all fighting for the coveted, glorious wooden spoon, but a different wooden spoon. Well, for us, we have an actual trophy, and it's beautiful. It looks like it has a Dollar Tree trinket, something that you could get at Dollar Tree or Roses for about $1.50 now. Sad that Dollar Tree is no longer $1. But you can buy this, nail it to a cheap piece of wood, call it a trophy, and there you go. And they have even and it's given out by the Independent Supporters Council, I believe, by MLS Independent Supporters Council. They award this trophy to the worst team in MLS every year. And it's honestly one of the best things that we got going for us. I would argue. Far too often, a lot of people don't like MLS's closed league system because they say it rewards losers. And I'm like, well, officially, yeah, it does. It does reward losers because we give them a freaking wooden spoon trophy to say, hey, you are the worst amongst all of us. So if that is what they think about when it comes to rewarding losers, then, I mean, I think I'd rather have that than relegation. But one of the things about this bingo is that it's supposed to encompass the best of a team and the absolute worst. Basically, it is a version of Pokemon. You got to catch them all. And Seattle is on the verge of doing something absolutely beautiful. And they have a chance to make it happen. Now you think, this is just before the World Cup has started. I mean, the World Cup has just ended. What makes you think that they have a legitimate shot? They still have like half of their season to go, by the way. What makes you think they have a legitimate shot at getting this trophy? Well, pretty much ever since May the 16th, Seattle has lost every single game they've played. You might think, oh, that's maybe 2-3 games. That's not a lot. 5 games. They've lost 5 in a row. And they started off the season pretty strong, too. They had gone unbeaten in 10 of their first 11 games. They won 7 of them, only losing once. They drew 3 times, won 7, and only lost once. Since May the 16th against LA Galaxy, they have lost every single game. And I just kind of want to point out that they went into the World Cup break with a 2-game losing skid. And their first game back post-World Cup was against Portland. Now, for those that don't know, Portland, outside of probably Vancouver, just all Cascadian teams, this is their biggest rival. And Seattle loves to talk trash. Portland loves to talk trash back. And one of the things that I think symbolizes the beauty of this rivalry is that Seattle, in order to hype up the game, released an ad campaign where they had players from the Seattle Sounders and also players from the Seattle NWSL team. I believe their name is the Reign, Seattle Reign. They had a bonfire alongside the Pacific Ocean. And as kindling, they tossed in and cut up roses. Now, for those that don't know, Portland is known as the Rose City. And in fact, the Portland women's soccer team, the NWSL team, is called the Thorns. So here they are setting up a bonfire, tossing in and cutting up roses as kindling, and then making s'mores with little marshmallows that have the Portland Timbers logo and the Portland Thorns logo on them. All the while in the background, you can hear the crowd singing Build a Bonfire, which, if you want me to give you Nashville's, at least a cleaner version of Nashville's version, it basically goes like this. Build a bonfire, put insert team name here at the top. Cincinnati in the middle, and we'll burn those Garys up. The end is a little bit more vulgar, but I decided to censor myself. Well, anyway, this ad is beautiful. Mwah. S-tier advertising, S-tier marketing. Well, Portland, I'm pretty sure did not even see the ad because I don't think it got much reach. I mean, I just found out about it about maybe a week ago. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the diehards in Portland found out about it. Maybe even some of the players found out about it. And they responded by absolutely thrashing Seattle. And I mean, in the world of soccer, you think that a 2-0 game is bad, 3-0 game is probably bad. Well, Portland did not hold up. They gave them a 5-1 thrashing at Seattle. And this is just off of the World Cup break. This is just after the U.S. decided to embarrass themselves against Belgium, and I believe that was in Seattle too. So Lumen has been home to 2 major embarrassments in a row, which, if they had a nickel for every time that happened, they'd probably have 2 nickels, which would be neat, but also a very odd coincidence that it happened twice in a row. And you would think that Seattle, after this embarrassment of a performance, that they would try to get back to their winning ways back in April and May. No, it didn't happen. In fact, they got beaten by Austin FC, by the Anthony Precourt team, the team whose owner is literally the namesake for this trophy of humiliation because he is a poopy head. I actually have some brief description in my haters guide if you ever want to watch that. That goes into kind of some detail about why Anthony Precourt is a poopy head, and Austin FC fans are therefore poopy heads as well by proxy. And then comes the big match against leading spoon contenders, Philadelphia Union, who just are going through probably one of the weirdest types of chaotic seasons ever. It's super rare to find a team that had won the Supporter Shield, being the number 1 team in MLS through the regular season, and then now, just 1 year later, completely collapse to where you are the worst team in MLS. Now, a lot of this is also just because of, I believe, free agent deals, trade deals, players leaving, and also just the team as a whole is kind of a mess. Front office, from what I've heard, I think front offices has some issues, and that's probably saying it lightly. And a lot of the team is still very young, so a lot of the starters are basically young prospects. One of them in particular is 16-year-old Kevin Sullivan, who's going to be taking his talents to Manchester City once he turns 18. So he's getting as much time as he can in order to basically get himself ready for the Premier League. And Philadelphia, by all means, is a volatile team, just in a very similar way to how San Diego is performing, where there's a lot of young players. And so while you can have exciting moments with these players because they're so young and they're just going to go all out 100, just going to go gung ho every single minute. It's extremely volatile because as one of the San Diego writers once described for San Diego FC, the margins of error are extremely thin. Well, for Seattle, they're just playing so poorly right now that even the margins of error for Philadelphia didn't matter. And Philly won 1-0. Now, you would think, okay, there still should be a chance for Seattle to get back out of this funk and start to, at least keep themselves away from getting a bingo. Well, yeah. Except they got a 4-game skid. They got a 4-game schedule coming up against Portland in Portland. They got to play Vancouver in Seattle, and then they got to go and play Austin at home, and then finally they got to play the game against the Garys in Cincinnati, and then after that they got to play Robbie Lewandowski in Chicago. Now here's the thing you got to ask yourself here. What is more important? Winning the spoon, obtaining a bingo, or finishing mid-tier where nobody's going to remember the season? I think that there's an opportunity for greatness to happen here. So Seattle, go for the spoon. Get that bingo.